3 minutes 30 seconds remaining. Minutes remaining. Two minutes 30 seconds remaining. Minutes remaining. One at third deck remaining. One minute remaining. Three seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Skins. You can see 5 cents.
And up! He's live. He's nationwide. This is Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live for number nations, Ben Benner, New Orleans is number 1, Michael Patu, Rail Super Bowl 59, when the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles hit crawl, low, cities, Mecca, theater, and a reason, and away from the free, at 851 is the Giant 852 was in great work, active, Vigo, Twitter, at Get, at CSG, Bola, Dudas, all slow around, all player, no, Jared, 4 felts of infinite app, NFL, yeah, I'm equal, but at the number 2, array, and it has failed miserably, where if you're asking me, sell me hope on the Cleveland Browns franchise, I can't really sell you that hope, and I don't usually advocate trading a generational talent like a Myles Garrett, a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer, which he will eventually be. But you not only swung and missed on the quarterback, you also lost a lot of picks in the process of getting that quarterback. And it prevented you from fixing the rest of your roster. So now the Browns almost have to trade Myles Garrett. And you got to hope that the market, which should be very rich, is a king's ransom return for Myles Garrett. Now, what that is, it's definitely starting with a first-round pick. Can you get 2 first-round picks? Can you get a first-round pick and a player? We're going to have to wait and see. But that's the thing that I think that we hear and we go, oh, Myles Garrett wants to go to a Super Bowl contender, but does he really want to go to a Super Bowl contender? And if he doesn't really want to go to a Super Bowl contender, and it's one of those teams you have to look at, squint your eyes, and go, yeah, you know, if this, that goes right, then sure, he's in a Super Bowl contender. That's not the team that Myles Garrett should be leaving, because you look at the Cleveland Browns, yeah, they had a horrible season this year. They were not a good football team, but you should only be leaving if you're serious about chasing that Lombardi trophy. And that's what I want to know. How serious? It's one thing to say it, but how serious is Myles Garrett in actually going and winning that championship? And when I look at this, I think there's 5 teams. And I got to take 2 out of the running right away, because I know it's not impossible to trade Myles Garrett inside the division. If you could rob a team like the Ravens or rob a team like the Bengals, and you could get a lot more than what other teams are giving you, yes, it would suck. Yes, it would be awful. Yes, it's not fun going up against one of your former players twice a year, and you know how unblockable Myles Garrett is. But I have a tough time seeing the Ravens and the Browns, the Bengals and the Browns executing a deal in order to get a trade done for Myles Garrett. Like, those are 2 teams I thought of at first. Hey, you know, the Ravens could use Myles Garrett. The Bengals could use Myles Garrett, but there's no way they're going to make that trade inside the division. So I have identified 5 teams, and I think 4 of them are legit Super Bowl contenders. 1, I think there's going to be a little bit of amazing season, breakout season, phenomenal season, but now can they not only replicate it, but take it to the next step? And that team is the Washington Commanders. There's a lot of sexiness to the Washington Commanders right now. You got the young quarterback who had a great season. Daniel Snyder, that pig, is out of the organization, and they changed the direction of that team around instantly. And Dan Quinn is a respectable coach. Adam Peters is a respected GM. You have a really damn good offensive player in Terry McLaurin at the wide receiver position. You have enough at the running back position, and your defense, needs improvement. But it did a fine job last year where the defense was serviceable enough where you could get to an NFC championship game. If you go out and trade for Myles Garrett, it puts a cornerstone player in your franchise. Your building blocks, your identity would be Jaden Daniels to the left, Myles Garrett to the right, and then Terry McLaurin right in the middle, where you would have three pieces where you go, wow, those are three serious pieces in getting us over the hump and improving on what we were able to do a year ago. So Myles Garrett to the Commanders is one that just registers and one that makes sense. The other four, heck, one team is the standard. The other team is trying to beat the standard coming up on Sunday. And the other two, they need something else where they've been so close and the ball is basically on the goal line. All right, you're a yard or two out. It's third and goal, and you're going to have two more chances to potentially go on out there and win a Super Bowl. So let's address the two teams that are playing on Super Bowl Sunday, and that's the Chiefs and the Eagles. Could you imagine a world? It's almost like the start of a 30 for 30.
What if I told you that Myles Garrett would go from Cleveland to Kansas City, chasing a championship
with Myles Garrett? If Myles Garrett goes to the Chiefs, we should just shut football down. The Chiefs the last 2 years have been, when it's mattered, unbeatable. And we could potentially have that actually be for 3 years because they're going for that three-peat, three-pat, whatever you want to call it. And a team like Kansas City, would you give up a George Karlaftis if that's what it takes? A young player, a really good pass rusher, a guy that's going to make plays in the Super Bowl to go get Myles Garrett. Does Kansas City need to go get Myles Garrett? No. But right now they're living in the NFL penthouse. And when you live in the NFL penthouse, everything else is really a luxury. It's an added luxury. But this would be a big, damn impressive added luxury if you go get Myles Garrett. Veach and Andy and company, everyone in the Kansas City Chiefs organization, you at least got to make that phone call with the Cleveland Browns and incompetent organizations making competent decisions. And I would hope that the Browns wouldn't trade, right? This unbeatable team, it feels like right now in Kansas City, would trade in Myles Garrett. But, I've seen teams living it for 20 years where when you are the standard, you get inferior teams to do things that normally they don't want to do. And then also adding on top of that, the Eagles have a need for another pass rusher. Right? Brandon Graham is up there in age. Brandon Graham could be playing in his final game coming up on Sunday. I do feel as if he's going to play. Jalen Carter has been a force to be reckoned with this year on that defensive line. Nolan Smith has had a breakout season. And you look at Philadelphia, number one defense, and then you look at the offense with all the players that they have. It's almost a video game on offense with Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, obviously Saquon Barkley, one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in the NFL. And we know this, Howie Roseman always goes shopping. Howie Roseman always has his hands on every deal, even if he doesn't end up pulling the trigger. So there's nothing to lose for teams like Kansas City and Philadelphia, right? Kansas City has been to the 2 straight Super Bowls, trying to win a third straight Super Bowl coming up on Sunday. There's no harm in making the call to the Browns, even though the Browns say right now they're not going to trade him. And then you look at the Eagles. We know Howie has been in a lot of big moves to try to go get big-time players, and that we're going to see on the field coming up on Sunday. So when I look at that and I take a glance at the teams around the NFL that are potentially in for the services of Myles Garrett, I just gave you 3 of them. Clearly, the Commanders are going to be going and making a push. Clearly, you're going to see Chiefs going and making a push. The Philadelphia Eagles are going and making a push. But for the Chiefs and the Eagles, it's not a necessity. For the Commanders, it would be a nice step forward. Really, the 2 teams that I think is a necessity, that should be the first 2 teams calling the Cleveland Browns, even if Barry tells them to get blip off the phone line. You keep on calling and calling and calling and calling. It's Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions. I know the Detroit Lions next year are getting Aiden Hutchinson back. If you could put Aiden Hutchinson next to Myles Garrett, and you have those 2 guys trying to hit quarterback with some of the offense pick. We've seen, right, guys like Mikal Bridges. We have seen Rudy Gobert go for 4,000 first-round picks. So it's one thing if you want to trade Luka Doncic, which I would advise against. I would not trade Luka Doncic. If Joel Embiid, who's out of shape, could stay in Philadelphia, Luka Doncic, who's out of shape, he could go stay with the Dallas Mavericks when you just got to a damn finals last year. So there are other situations. Zion Williamson, who's done nothing in this league, The Pelicans have kept him around, and he is not the beacon of being in shape for an NBA player. So this is a bunch of nonsense, and this is Nico Harrison thinking he's the smartest guy in the room, and let's be real, he looks like a jackass in the last 48 hours. He looks like the dumbest GM in the history of the NBA. That's what happens when you trade away a generational superstar like a Myles Garrett, and you get and Luka Doncic, and you get very, very little in return. It just can't happen. It can't happen. Like, Stu, I know you're on cloud nine. I know you were thrilled. I know today you're like a fat kid in a candy store because not that the Lakers are really going to do much this year. No. I don't expect the Lakers to go win a championship because they got Luka Doncic, but now they have a plan in life after LeBron James. And now you have a top 5, top 3 player in the league, a guy who, if he's out of shape and he's going to the NBA Finals, what could he do if he starts to take his health more seriously? But the fact that you guys got him in the deal, that part is stunning, right? That Luka got traded.
Of course.
But the jaw-dropping part, the part where I still can't believe, and I looked at the Shams tweet that's done like 100 million views, and I still think it's fake, is that basically all you gave up was Anthony Davis, who's 31, and you gave up 1 first-round pick. You got to be laughing.
Yes.
This is a deal that NBA 2K wouldn't even accept. It is crazy. It is jackassery. I'm irate. I'm incensed over the fact that not only the Mavs traded him, but they got nothing back for him. And I understand Anthony Davis is a heck of a player, but if you're going to trade someone like a Luka Doncic, you got to get more than basically a first-round pick in addition to Anthony Davis. And that's nowhere near enough, Stu.
No, of course it's not. And I was about to go to sleep. I rolled over. I saw the notification. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was fake. And you're right. It's not giving up Anthony Davis. It's the fact that they really gave up nothing else. Like 1 first-round pick that you would think with Luka Doncic is going to be like a late 20s pick, maybe mid-20s at best. Like the fact they didn't have to give up 2 picks plus 2 pick swaps, maybe trade another team, get their picks as well. Like it's absurd, Zach.
And you know what it is, too? The hubris of Nico Harrison is really something. When you start off a serious press conference like that, making jokes, oh, does Jason Kidd really have always this much press around him? You know, is there always this many media members around him? It's just unacceptable. You know you're in the wrong because you have to justify yourself, and you're starting off your damn press conference basically making jokes because you know it's awkward. You know you messed up. But really what Nico Harrison did here was he traded away a generational superstar and got very little back in return. And when I listened to that 10 minutes of just bull junk, because that was bull junk from Nico Harrison, and I felt bad that they even made Jason Kidd have to stand up there, because don't tell me how aligned you and Jason Kidd are when you didn't even tell Jason Kidd until after you did the deal. You can't tell me that, oh, you know Jason so well, you know Jay Kidd so well, that you don't even need to talk to him before making this deal go into action for a player of this quality in Luka Doncic. But really, this is not them not thinking that Luka wouldn't re-sign, right? It'd be one thing if Luka said, hey, I was going to force my way out of Dallas. I really believe he wanted to stay in Dallas. This is the Mavericks with Nico Harrison thinking Luka's out of shape, and also they have a culture that will be just undefeated. And Luka didn't fit their culture because he plays very to little no defense. So what's your culture now? Right? Because you lost your identity losing Luka Doncic. And now you're a laughingstock, and everyone thinks that this is going to fail. And the other part is, why didn't they shop him? And I thought long and hard about this. I don't think Nico Harrison, if he was going to trade Luka Doncic, he could have afforded to shop him. And I know you'll say, but don't you want to get the most back? If that got out, which that would have got out, that they were shopping Luka Doncic, a player of that magnitude, those fans, you've seen the reaction since the trade. Imagine if this was rumored and they could have done something to prevent it, they would have revolted. So he almost had to keep this thing quiet, keep this thing hush-hush, and only talk to one team, but that's how badly he wanted Luka Doncic out. And Nico Harrison, he will not last long in Dallas. He just basically began his own funeral in Dallas, and he will not be their GM for that much longer, unless if they're just a bunch of incompetent buffoons with the Dallas Mavericks organization. I still can't believe, I'm really still stunned 2 days later that the Mavs not only traded him, but how little they got back for him in only Anthony Davis and a first-round pick. So those are my thoughts on that. Nico Harrison could be my least favorite person in all of sports right now. I don't even give a rat's ass about the Dallas Mavericks. I just hate when people let ego have them make just incompetent decisions. All righty, we'll take a time out here from Radio Row. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network, broadcasting to all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM Channel 375, and you can always catch us on the free Odyssey app. We will get back into the Myles Garrett conversation when we come on back with former NFL defensive lineman Gerald McCoy, who will join us live from New Orleans as Zach Gelb Show continues after these short messages.
Infinity Sports Network, Sports Flash.
And here's a riddle sponsored by Progressive Insurance. What do your home and auto have in common? Progressive protects them both. It was an easy riddle. Learn more at Progressive.com. Super Bowl Media Night kicks off the week of media hype at Super Bowl 59. Is it Chiefs envy or fatigue as Super Bowl week is here and the Chiefs in this spot for the fifth time in the last 6 years? Myles Garrett has said he doesn't want to go through another rebuild in Cleveland and has asked for a trade. He has 2 years left on his current 5-year deal, but no more guaranteed money. GM Andrew Berry had said last week that he was not open to trading the Defensive Player of the Year. It's the end of the road for another big-name coach in college basketball. As Florida State's Leonard Hamilton announced this will be his final season. The 76-year-old has been in Tallahassee for the last 23 years. Auburn remains number one in the latest AP Top 25 poll, followed by Duke after their resounding win over North Carolina. The Spurs are making a playoff push for this year and beyond. They're in Memphis tonight to face the Grizzlies as San Antonio took a big step forward yesterday, acquiring veteran guard De'Aaron Fox from the Kings in a blockbuster deal, one of obviously two over the weekend. And the Thunder, with the best record in the West, will host the Bucks tonight. I'm Rich Ackerman.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, Zach Gelb here with you. It's time to ask the pros. The listener gets asked us a question brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Simply tweet your question at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag #AskThePros. If you're listening later in the show, we might answer your question. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. And joining us is former NFL All-Pro defensive tackle Gerald McCoy. Gerald is the host of McCoy and Van Noy on Yahoo Sports, which is recording from the Toyota Land Cruiser set on Radio Row this week. Gerald McCoy, appreciate you doing this. How you been?
I am incredible. At the beginning of Super Week, I guess is what they're calling it. And I got up and ran this morning. And usually when I'm running, I'm here on the turf. I play for Tampa, and I played against the Saints multiple times. So I'm used to running, on the turf. But today I ran outside, and I got to take in New Orleans and all its lore. And I tell you this, New Orleans is a different place, but I enjoy it.
It's really something. The food, the booze, all that stuff, the late night partying. I remember when I was in college, I came down here for Mardi Gras. I would give you stories, but A, I think I'd get fired, and B, I don't think I remember any of them.
Right.
If you know what I'm saying. Yeah. This matchup, you tired of Kansas City, or do you just have great respect for them?
No, see, here's the thing. I'm one of those advocates that we can't have greatness fatigue. It's just like if you think about the MVP race this year, Josh Allen's story's better, but he didn't play better than Lamar. So because last year people say Lamar won MVP because his team was great and he was the best player on that team and this and this. His numbers didn't reflect MVP, but he got it. So why not for Josh Allen? Well, because we can't say, because he won it last year, he can't win it again.
Yeah, that's not true. That shouldn't be the reason why you should vote for it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I feel the same about winning. When Klay Thompson, when the Golden State Warriors and the Cleveland Cavaliers kept going to the finals, and everybody was, I'm tired of seeing the same two teams. Klay Thompson had two words for everybody: beat us.
Yeah.
If you don't want to see the same two teams, beat us. Nobody's beating us. I feel that way about Kansas City. We can't. It's so hard to sustain greatness when you see a team or a person or anything doing it. You respect it and you enjoy it while it's here, because it's extremely difficult to be this good year after year after year. That's a lot of treatment. That's a lot of running. That's a lot of sacrificing foods. That's a lot of sacrificing time with families. That's a lot of focus it takes at the end of games when you're the hunted. It's easy to hunt. It's tough being the hunted because everybody's coming after you. When you hunt, you can pick and choose how much you hunt. Am I hunting this one person? Am I hunting multiple? What am I hunting? When you're the hunted, you don't get to pick. And that's what Kansas City is, and they are just so great. So I'm one of the people who, as long as they're great, I'm going to respect it because it's very difficult to sustain greatness.
And it would be one thing, right, if they got here and they were boring. I can understand some of the fatigue, and I know this is a Super Bowl that we saw 2 years ago, but I could argue the Eagles, top to bottom, are a better team than Kansas City.
You don't have to argue it, they are.
And you look at it, it's one of those matchups where how can't you be intrigued about all the names of Philly going up against Mahomes, Kelsey, and Andy
Philly
Reid?
is the better team, and the better team does not necessarily mean the team that wins.
Yeah.
When you look at Philly, you can't coach speed, and they have speed at every level on all sides of the ball. Defensively is where they struggled last year. Well, come in and number one defense. They got all pros at every level. This is what they have become. But there is no substitution for experience, and that's what Kansas City has. If I put 3 different teams up with no title, no name, or nothing, it just shows you the numbers. The average numbers, you're not going to tag Kansas City to that. But if I put up a record and you see the record, you're going to say, oh, that has to be Kansas City, or at least those two, the good records, one of them is Kansas City because the names and the resumes don't reflect how good the team is, but it does reflect the record.
And it's funny to me, everyone goes, Gerald McCoy is here with us. Oh, the Chiefs are vulnerable, and still no one could beat them. And also, we talk about clutch moments. I know we all slobber over Mahomes and Kelsey, but in every one of these games, Chris Jones, he makes a big play when it matters the most.
Yeah, Chris Jones, as great as he's been and on his way to the Hall of Fame, as phenomenal as he's been. We've seen him have great games with big numbers and the 15 straight games or whatever with sacks and all. We've seen a lot of great. I can argue based off the film that this past AFC Championship was the best game I've seen him play. Wow. And it wasn't what he does in a game, what he does for his team is not all about numbers. It's about impact. How do you impact the game? What he did to Buffalo's O-line was demoralizing. And it's because I'm looking for it. Your untrained eye is not looking for it. He's literally taking grown men and putting them 2, 3, 4 yards in the backfield every play, regardless of the result of the play. And as a former player, knowing what that does to an offense, not just the offensive line, but the offense period, what it does is it speeds up the operation. It changes how a play caller may call the game because now you know at any given point, this guy is going to be in the way. How we run the ball changes because this guy's in the way. How we pass or how fast we get rid of the ball changes because this guy's in the way. What makes Chris Jones so great is he's a Swiss Army knife. He doesn't just do it from interior at the 3 technique. He might be at nose guard. He might be on the right. He might be on the left. He's made most of his dominating or impactful plays at defensive end, and that's not even a position he plays.
And I'll tell you, the defensive lines, to me, in both these matchups, I know this is what we do, right? Who's on the offense? Right? You got Mahomes, you got Hurts, you got Kelsey, you got Saquon. I look at Jalen Carter, Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, and I'm like, all right, that's what I'm most intrigued to see. Which one of those guys are going to not only impact the game, but take over the game and get a turnover?
For sure, man. You got great tandems. You know, you got Nolan Smith and Jalen Carter.
Yeah, Nolan's
then you
good.
got George Karlaftis and Chris Jones. And then you got other guys, obviously, that help. But those 2 tandems are going to play a key role, especially with Patrick Mahomes has been hit and sacked more than he's been since he's been a starter in the NFL. And you're going up against a defensive line that is back at that Philly level of playing defensive line. Jalen Carter doesn't even know how to play football yet. And I say that not in a disrespectful way. I say that he's so young. He's doing everything he's doing off instinct and talent. When he's able to break the game down and slow it down and really learn football, oh, my gosh. He's definitely going to be joining with all those guys that's getting fitted for them gold jackets if he can sustain this.
What does your first gut tell you on where Myles Garrett is going to be playing football next year after this trade request?
It's going to have to be a team that has multiple picks that they're willing to give up. But this is what I'll say. If you're a player away, regardless of what the position is, if you're a player away, you go get him. You know why? Because a first-round pick, the statistics say it's a 50-50 decision, hit or miss. Myles Garrett is not a hit or miss. He's a hit. And 1 or 2 or 3 of those people equals half of what he is and what he's been. He's a defensive player of the year. He's a finalist again, but he's loyal. And a lot of people are like, well, he put out a statement. You know, you keep that stuff under wraps. If Myles Garrett did that, it was for a good reason. I'll tell you why. When I parted ways with Tampa, I was taking a visit to the Cleveland Browns. And they asked him, hey, man, you got Gerald coming in. It would be great to play with him. And he was like, yeah, we good with what we got. And he had Larry Ogunjobi, who's one of my guys at the time. Larry had made a Pro Bowl or been an All-Pro, and you had an opportunity to get me. And he said, we good with what we got. You know why? Me, I could have taken that one or two ways. I could have said, oh, that's disrespectful. Or that guy is extremely loyal to who he's around. And if you got a guy who's this dominant on the field, he's always supported his franchise, never tried to speak out against his franchise, never made it about me, Myles Garrett. I've seen him talk about Myles Garrett one time, and it was this year, and it was targeted towards T.J. Watt, where he said, I'm the guy. But he was saying it in representation of the team. So when you got a guy like that who's loyal to his team, you know he's going to be a dynamite on the field, you do everything in your power to go get him.
Tell me what you got cooking with your new podcast out with Kyle Van Noy, who I love, and also with the fine folks at Toyota.
Yeah, man. Me and Kyle started this podcast. Yahoo Sports gave us a great opportunity. And what it is, man, there's a lot of people with podcasts, a lot of people talking football and all this, but they're analyzing. What me and Kyle are doing that makes us different is we're giving you insight at 2 different levels. One, well, Kyle's a Pro Bowler now, but you had a guy who's played at an all-pro level, who's sustained greatness over a period of time and has been on multiple teams, been in multiple locker rooms. You have another guy who's won multiple Super Bowls.
And made some big plays, too.
And he has a great story. He has a redemption story that people want to hear. He was drafted to the Detroit Lions, and he didn't have an opportunity to be in a position he wanted to be in. Goes and wins Super Bowl with the Patriots. Then he bounces around a journeyman. He's sitting at home. He comes back with the Baltimore Ravens and has the best 2 years of his career.
That's awesome.
That's something you want to hear about. You want to hear insight of what you see on TV from 2 guys that can tell you why it happened based off what's going on in the building.
He's Gerald McCoy. Once again, make sure you check out the podcast. Gerald McCoy is the co-host of McCoy and Van Noy on Yahoo Sports, which is recording from Toyota Land Cruiser set on Radio Row this week. Gerald McCoy,
yes, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank
appreciate
you so
it, brother.
much.
Thanks for having me.
We'll take a break here live in New Orleans. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. Thomas Dimitroff is going to join us next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, hour number 2 of our radio program. It is the Zach Gelb Show, coast to coast on the Infinity Sports Network. And now joining us is former NFL general manager here today on behalf of Sumer Sports, which we talk about a ton, and that is Thomas Dimitroff. Thomas, how you been?
I'm good. A lot of busy stuff going on, but we're doing well.
So I'm actually going to start you off with just the GM kind of reaction question to another sport. And we all saw this Luka Doncic trade where everyone was like, what the bleep just happened? When a trade like that happens, whether you were in the NFL or just observing sports, and you see a deal that goes down and you didn't expect it happening, and then you see what the return is, you go, that's not satisfactory. What are other general managers like?
I have a lot of friends in different businesses, right? Basketball, baseball, I mean, in the European League. And we have a lot of these discussions when some of these things go down. And I ask them point blank, how did this go down? What are their responses? In the end, there's a lot of sleepless nights before they make these deals, and everything is, they're being judged on these big time moves, right? And I that's where my head goes on. I always try to empathize with them,
because it was like clear to me that Nico Harrison, the Mavs GM, he made this move because they don't think Luka Doncic fits into their culture. And I go, man, all right, I understand you have a culture. And it's one thing if it's a third or fourth player on the roster that doesn't fit into your culture, but when the guy's your standard and he's a generational player, I think we figure out whatever his culture is and you build around that.
I think I would agree that that's where my head would go with it, because that guy, I mean, have we seen that? And it's amazing to see that. I exactly understand what you're saying, and I agree with you 100%.
And the other part is when you have a player, because this happens in the NFL all the time, where you go, okay, this player's not in the shape we want him to. What are those conversations like? Even when it's with the star, to get them into better shape and to make them understand they need to do that?
I think you sit down and you have that very serious conversation with them, with the head coach and the general manager, and you really drill down on, here are our expectations, point blank. You make it as clear as possible. If that player is not buying in or they're not doing what they need to do, it does become complicated. And that's where it becomes really difficult for a GM to make a move like that, because that's going to be hanging over their head for a long time. That guy's going to go somewhere else, of course, and he's going to thrive wherever he is, and it's always going to be haunting. What did the trade end up being?
Basically, the parameters were Anthony Davis, who ended up going back to the Mavericks, who's a really good player, but he's 31. He's not 25. They got a first-round pick and some other pieces. Now, in the NFL, trading a first-round pick for someone is big. In the NBA, there's a lot of deals where there's 5 first-round picks.
It's a great
traded
point.
for players.
It's a great point.
Yeah.
It's a great point. But I saw someone else recently talking about someone else. You'll get into it.
Yeah.
And the Browns asking for a trade. I mean, that's possibly 2 first rounds and a third, or who knows what that's going to be.
So you know where I went to? It wasn't where I first went to, because when Thomas Dimitroff is here with us, when the news came out today that Myles Garrett wanted out, I wasn't surprised whatsoever. That makes sense. And obviously, you could talk about Buffalo, you could talk about Detroit, the Commanders, the Eagles. What about Kansas City? They're in the penthouse. They are a team right now that no one has the answer for them. We'll see what the Eagles do on Sunday. A first-round pick from Kansas City means nothing for Myles Garrett. What happens if you offer up George Karlaftis?
Wow, that's a good GM thought.
Yeah.
I like that. No, I mean, I was not thinking Kansas City at all. But when you because I've been really pushing on the Detroit thing because I really thought Max Crosby should have gone there for other reasons too. That didn't obviously happen. I think they could really benefit. Just stand on Detroit for a half a second. The idea of where they're going to go, losing their coordinators, losing people. This is going to be an important year for them to build properly. So I thought that was the right spot. But when you start talking about Kansas City, I don't know. Am I missing? I don't know if I'm feeling Brett Veach in that move, though.
Fair.
I'm feeling Zach Gelb in that move, but I don't know if I'm feeling Brett Veach.
Here's the thing and you used to work for the Patriots, and I'm a Patriot fan. For 20 years, right, they were in the penthouse. So they don't need him. They could still win a Super Bowl without him, but you at least got to make that phone call. And maybe they say, okay, we don't want to pay Myles Garrett. We got a young player in George Karlaftis that down the road we'd rather allocate those dollars to him. But teams like the Eagles and the Chiefs, good GMs, they call everyone, right?
Good GMs call everyone. They're always inquiring to see if they can do something. And I know Howie Roseman well, and back in the day we used to joke all the time. He'd ask me for a second round. I think I might have mentioned this. Everything we ever dealt with, it could have been the back end of the roster who wanted a second round. Good to him, right? Because that's what he did, and that's why he's the best in what he's doing right now.
Are there some GMs, right, Howie has that reputation, where when they call you go, even if I like their deal, what am I missing here? I would be skeptical to make a move with Howie Roseman.
I think I never was in that spot because he and I were peers through the whole thing. I guarantee some of the young guys are on the edge of their seat when he calls. It's like my first trade ever was trading D'Angelo Hall, believe it or not, to the Raiders when Al Davis called me. And he gets on the phone with me, and I'm thinking, I'm talking to Al Davis. He's going to run roughshod over me. That was the first deal I ever made. We did the deal for him. He calls me back in 2 weeks, and he said, I want my damn pick back. And I thought, oh, my God. And he was joking with me, of course. But that's life. I think the younger guys in the league are intimidated by Howie's mind.
All right, let me get to the whole Jets. I know you also interviewed with Tennessee. What was your thought process, your takeaways from giving us that experience of interviewing for the Jet GM job?
So I went in there thinking that what I had heard, that they were looking for an experienced general manager. So I was really interested. I would not have just taken, random GM jobs. I really wouldn't. I mean, this is the first year in 3 years that I've interviewed, right? For those I interviewed for the Jets, of course, and Tennessee. But the Jets job was really interesting to me because there were parallels in my mind to what I was able to do and what Mike Smith and I were able to do coming into Atlanta back in the day in 2008. It was coming off the Michael Vick debacle. Honestly, you could argue that the Falcons were in even a worse spot than the Jets were in, and I just thought that would be possibly a good fit for that from that standpoint, right? Being able to rebuild and resurrect an organization was something that had a lot of interest in me. It didn't work out. I'm really happy for Darren Musi. I know Darren. I mean, obviously they didn't go with any experience there, right? Both he and Aaron Glenn are first timers in that role. It can be done. Mike Smith and I did it in Atlanta. But the point is, Darren Musi is coming in there, and I think he's going to work well with that group. I have a great deal of respect for the president, Jaime Eli, who part of all this, and they decided they're going to go with these two guys that have a lot of passion and knowledge for football, so it's going to be interesting to see.
You talked about if you got the Jet job and the rebuild, and they do have a lot of young pieces on that team, like Sauce Gardner, Garrett Wilson, Quinn Williams. Would you have kept Aaron Rodgers, or would you say, Aaron, we're getting rid of you?
Well, I've said this around here. I mean, I categorically think Aaron is one of the very best quarterbacks to ever play this game. I think Aaron Rodgers, as where it is now and how things are playing out, it would be best for him to move on from the Jets and go somewhere. I still think, watching him closely in that whole preparation process, I'm like, this cat can still make plays. I know a lot of people want to throw darts at him for other reasons. Mm-hmm. He's making off-camera throws. He's moving around doing things, and I'm like, this guy can still help a team win. There are, we know there are a dearth of quarterbacks. You're not just pulling them out of the trees, right? I mean, this guy can still play. So I just think goes to a new place, another two years, and helps a young guy come along there. I know he had mentioned that he might want to do that, but the problem is right now, this group of quarterbacks, though they're talented, aren't the same talent as last year's. group, right? So there's going to be some growing pains there. I think Shedeur Sanders has a lot of talent, as does Ward. My question to you and anyone else is, who in the heck is the third quarterback in line for that group?
I have gone through this 3,000 times, and also, like, Carson Beck is back at Miami. Now he's transferred to Miami, and I would not use a first-round pick on him. The big story out of the Senior Bowl is Jackson Dart. It could be. I would not use a first-round pick on him. Dylan Gabriel, I would not use a first-round pick on him. Jalen Milroe, I wouldn't use a first-round pick on him. So what I'm saying here is there should only be 2 quarterbacks to go in the first round.
And let's see, those 2 quarterbacks go, let's just say they go in the top 5, and then there's that, that wave until the second round.
Yeah.
You're right. Some of those guys, though, they have talent. I mean, you can argue whatever you want about Dylan Gabriel. I mean, small, 5'10 and a half, I think he was. Russell Wilson-ish, right?
Yeah.
Very close. That guy he is precise. He's a competitor.
Multiple spots, too.
There's some, it's going to be interesting to see that. I don't envy to figure out what they're doing. And I say the Titans because they could easily move back and say, we're going to build that right side of our offensive line, which, we, again, spending some time looking at them, of course, in my interview process too. Where is Levis? Can he take another year and really hopefully develop that line to see what he is? Can he continue to learn and grow? Because he can throw the ball deep. There's just a feeling in the pocket that is vital there. They're going to have to make a decision. Do they trade back and get a lot of draft booty, or do they try to pick someone in that top 5?
So Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, the 2 quarterbacks are in play. Trading back is in play. If you got that Tennessee job, what would you have done with the first pick?
Well, I think that's what I would have looked at. I would have scrutinized and analyzed those quarterbacks up and down like I would do all the time. But I would, in my back of my mind, and my background is not trading back a whole bunch, right? My background is Trader Thomas moving forward. That said, this is the one time I was just kind of salivating at the thought of, hey, being in that spot to be able to move back and create this, this great gathering of talent, and take Will Levis one more year and really see where he is, help him grow. I don't know, what do you do in free agency? It's not easy to go in free agency and to get a quarterback. I've never been a big fan of that, to be honest with you. That's a lot of money invested, usually in an older guy. And I know things worked out well for some of those quarterbacks this year, right? It was great to see.
Yeah.
What are those guys going to get this year? Who's in the market this year? Both, who trying to think who's in the free agency market beyond
for quarterbacks?
Yeah, for quarterbacks. I mean,
Russell Wilson.
Yeah,
not dying to go get him.
Right.
Potentially Kirk Cousins if he becomes available. Which I know that Atlanta, right? Oh yeah, we'll keep him as a backup. I don't think Kirk is going to want to be a backup. Sam Darnold as well.
And Sam Darnold,
but if I'm Tennessee, I'm not going after any of those guys unless if it's a 1-year stopgap. But I'd rather just see Levis another year, even though I don't think Levis is the answer.
I would rather see him. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Will Levis. I still unless he turns the corner. To me, it's the inside. It's inside the pocket presence. Not that he can't do it. I mean, we see him. He's doing Mayo commercials, doing splits. I mean, I'm like, this guy can. If that's truly what, maybe it was fake, but who knows?
Was there an edict when you talked to the Jets and the conversations came up about Aaron Rodgers? This idea that Woody Johnson and Aaron don't see eye to eye, and I know Aaron Glenn supposedly wants Aaron back. Was Woody maybe at all pushing that Aaron would not be back on the team in the interview process?
No, without getting a ton of detail about that, no, not at all. I think he was really, I'm sure, and knowing his approach to this, he really wanted to hear the interview people talking about what they would truly do, and he didn't want to influence in any way, I'm sure, of what that response would be. So I would be really interested to sit in there. If I could be Rick Spielman and Mike Tannenbaum to say, listening to the different approaches, how many of those people said, no, keep him another year, right? We'll draft someone potentially and help them learn. I don't know if there were many of those. That's just my hypothetically.
When you gave your answer, though, when you were talking to them, did you kind of sense, they like the answer, or was it, they definitely don't want this guy back? If you were maybe thinking about getting rid of him.
You know, it's a really interesting thought. I was trying to gauge that, and I couldn't really gauge it. But what I would say is, in my mind, if I were to be a president or someone over top of that, I would want that person to come in and be very stout about what they believe in. That would make it a lot easier than hem-hawing around about it, right? Like, kind of, sort of, kind of. I wouldn't want that, right? I want that guy's coming in who's going to believe in it, and whether we agree or not, that they're going to move forward on. I think that's a big thing when you're interviewing a general manager.
I know Sumer Sports is the best. What do you got cooking with that?
You know, we're just working hard. We just keep growing all the time. We started at 3 years ago, 3 of us, myself, Paul Tudor Jones, and his son. We have 40-plus data scientists and engineers now. We have 5 former general managers. We have about 25 NFL people in there. All of our subjective work that we're doing with all of our scouts is is a very important part of the foundation of building our algorithms and all of our models. We fold in a lot of the data analytics, and we create some really cool stuff. Our B2B business, NFL, but we're doing a lot of work in NCAA as well, right? In portal and NIL work, which, as we all know, that's a fascinating part of where sport is right now.
And who are you picking to win the game, by the way?
You know, my response is supposed to be that the AI brain, we call it, our Sumer brain, is suggesting that Philly has the nudge and the edge on the data side of it all and the statistical side. But because of the X factor that the quarterback, and Patrick Mahomes is going to be a difference maker. But like I said, Howie's got a long memory and he hears it sometimes, so I'm not going to make a call on it. I think it's going to be a really close three-point game.
Thomas Dimitroff, appreciate it. Thanks so
brother.
much.
Always.
That's Thomas Dimitroff from Sumer Sports. It is the Zach Gelb Show live here on Radio Row in New Orleans. Let's do this. We'll take a timeout right now. When we come on back, former NFL quarterback Ryan Leaf is going to stop by. We'll talk about some of those quarterback draft prospects and also the game coming up on Sunday, the Super Bowl between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs, with Patrick Mahomes going up against, obviously, Jalen Hurts. I feel like from the marketing standpoint, it's really Mahomes and Saquon are the two guys, and then who's the next person you're going to talk about the most? Even if he's not still as great as he once was, we still know how good of a football player he is and usually shows up for these postseason games. You obviously always have the Travis Kelce connection, not only with just the great player Travis Kelce is, but also who he's dating with Taylor Swift. So 15 minutes past the hour, Zach Gelb here with you, live on Radio Row, day number 1 from the New Orleans Convention Center. Ryan Leaf joins us next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, welcome back inside the New Orleans Convention Center. The Zach Gelb Show on Super Bowl Radio Row is sponsored by Tide Pods. Turn to cold water washing with Tide Pods. When you switch from hot to cold, you could save up to $150 a year on your energy bill. Plus, Tide cleans great in cold. And I didn't know when we were told we were being brought to you by Tide all throughout the week that they would build a giant washing machine right behind us on Radio Row, which also serves with the Tide Pods, as you could kind of throw the pod right into the center of the washing machine. When I first saw it online, I thought it was an actual washing machine, and I thought, I didn't have to pack that many clothes this week. I could just do laundry on Radio Row. But now joining us is friend of the show and Ryan Leaf. Ryan, always great to see you. Appreciate the time. How you been?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Yeah, that's great. That's a good display, man. That's you know. Play with the Tide Pods, everybody. Don't eat them.
Yeah,
Yep.
Which is crazy that you actually have to say that. But if you follow the news, obviously that's been in the news throughout the years. Let me ask you, just with the quarterback draft process, right? This time of the year, so many things are said. You never know if they're being said with good intentions or bad intentions. Sometimes there's a lot of things that get said with good intentions for the teams, but means bad intentions for the individual. Just when you talk to quarterbacks specifically about this draft process, I know for you it's more than football. What do you kind of just tell them these days?
Well, I just tell them they only can control three things, and that's their attitude, their behavior, and their effort, period. That's it. You can't control what's going to be said, and there's going to be said a lot of things. And I always tell everybody, fans of these teams and stuff like that, anything that happens, I would argue, anything that's said that happens after the Super Bowl until the NFL draft, you can't believe any of it.
Yeah, that's the thing, too, because, for example, nothing against Jackson Dart, but I didn't see anyone saying Jackson Dart was going to be the second quarterback taken in this draft. And then the Senior Bowl week happens, and now it's, he could be the second quarterback taken in the draft. I go, I think Shador and Cam, right, are going to be the first two quarterbacks taken. So people always fly up the draft boards, and it's interesting, that process and how we get there.
I don't think that realistically quarterbacks fly up the draft boards because of anything that's said in social media. I think listen, they're graded by scouts, coaches, GMs, the people that matter. These draft grades are not are not made public unless they want to make them public.
Yeah.
Right. So whatever Mel Kiper says, it doesn't mean anything. No matter what any of these guys say, if the draft grade in the war room is the one they're going off of, like, let me give you an example. Peyton and I had two of the highest draft grades ever. We were both 9.5s out of 10s, and that just doesn't happen. Those are what make it, and there are not people that go, did you hear down at the Senior Bowl, Jackson Dart was this guy, and everybody's in the war room going, unless you have an owner flat out that that lives in that world, and they want to impose their will on their decision. It's just not the case. And so, and listen, this year's draft class is not what it was last year. Okay, I don't necessarily think that there is a quarterback that has a first round grade in this year's class. Doesn't mean that there isn't one going to be drafted in the first round.
Sure.
You know.
So you don't think Shador or Cam are even first-round quarterbacks in your opinion?
They don't have a first-round grade in my opinion. I don't think I've seen from any general manager that I've spoken to or any sources I spoke to that have given them a first-round grade. And first-round grades are usually 8.8 to 10. And I want to say maybe even now they're somewhere around 9.2 to 10. I mean, it's significant. I mean, there'll be an instance where you have 32 teams picking, and you'll have, overall there may be like 15 guys that have first-round draft grades. But there's still going to be 32 picks, So then you go and decide whether do we just take the best possible player available or do we move back knowing that, we'll be reaching with the pick that we go with. And so you have examples of this, the Kenny Pickett one certainly where he was drafted in the first round. He was
19th, yeah.
Yeah, he easily could have been a second-round pick to the Steelers even, and so I always thought that was a reach. There's instances where you go, and I thought what happened with Will Levis 2 years ago was the best thing that could ever happen to him because, no one reached for him. He was a second-round guy. He had a second-round grade, and he went in the second round like he was supposed to. And so there was no pressure, right? He could go out, and in his first game out, throws 4 touchdowns, and now he's going to have to work for it because he got made the starting quarterback, and he had a down year, and they got the number 1 overall pick, and there's a chance they take a quarterback, and we'll see how it goes, but he's going to put the work in and see where we go from here.
And as we talk about, you could not have, in your opinion, right, a first-round grade or what the general manager say is a first-round grade and a quarterback, and we still very may well have 2 quarterbacks going in the first 3 picks of the draft. I could see Tennessee or Cleveland, one of them passing. I don't think both will pass, and the Giants, they almost have to take a quarterback at this stage. So with all that being said, at their best, Cam Ward, Shador Sanders, if they're not a first-round grade quarterback, then what do you think they can become?
Well, when you have that pick, and maybe there's a team that needs a defensive player or something, and you can move back. The fear of that is that you move back and somebody takes one of the quarterbacks. The biggest thing for general managers in this league is they live in a constant state of FOMO. It's just this fear of missing out on the next great thing. What somebody else has. I'm telling you right now. When Andy Reid knew exactly what he wanted in Patrick Mahomes and they made the trade to move up, when the pick was made, no one looked around and went, what a great job, what an impressive thing. They were like, what are you talking about? This, I didn't even know if he'd be a first-round draft pick in the eyes of a lot of people. Lee Steinberg had signed him, and it was just kind of out of left field. We played in the air raid offense, and
he was here. It was in Houston, I think it was.
The Houston Super Bowl, yeah.
And he was walking around Radio Row. And you know how it is here, right? It's not tough to get someone on a show if they're a great player.
Yep.
They were begging to put Patrick Mahomes on shows. And now, if they ever brought him here, it would be 3 shows and then out.
That's the way it works, He's made the most of everything. He just really has. The things worked the way they were supposed to. He went to the team that he was supposed to with the head coach, and who were tied to one another. And Andy saw it. They saw it. They understood it. They knew how to nurture it and cultivate it into being one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. So it's been incredibly impressive.
And it's fascinating on both sides as Ryan Leaf is here with us. So you have Mahomes, right, the Chiefs being aggressive to go get him because they thought they had their guy. Then he sat for a year, first year, then playing 50 touchdowns. They lose to the Patriots and Brady in the AFC Championship game. But Jalen Hurts, too. I remember was doing the second-round draft coverage for our network. They draft Jalen Hurts, and I go, okay, that's an insurance policy with the injuries that Carson Wentz suffered. But landing in a place like Philadelphia, and they've built the roster since, but you have one of the best GMs in Howie Roseman. For a guy that Jalen Hurts, no one thought he was going to be a first-round pick to what he ended up walking into. It was a little chaotic in the beginning because of the other quarterback there. But, man, wow. You want to talk about surrounding quarterbacks with something when he's ready to go. That's what the Eagles have now done.
They definitely. I remember that well. I was. It was the day before the world shut down. I was in Norman at covering it for ESPN, the pro day for Oklahoma, and it was Jalen Hurts and CeeDee Lamb, and Baltimore was really interested in him. It kind of has that insurance policy and stuff like that. But the thing about Jalen Hurts is that whoever drafted him, he's going to be your starting quarterback at some point because he'll just outwork everybody, and that's exactly what happened. You know, it was bound to happen in Philadelphia, and so I'm really excited for him. 2 Super Bowls in 3 years. He gets a chance at some revenge with some better assets around him. You know, and he played maybe one of his best football games of his life, and then in the Super Bowl 2 years ago just wasn't good enough. You know, and he may just be playing in an era where, frankly, for everybody else, it's just not good enough because it's Patrick Mahomes.
When we get back to the draft conversation, when a guy is tagged as a generational talent, and it's not just 1 year, right? For Joe Burrow, he came pretty much out of nowhere, even though what his ranking was when he first got to Ohio State. But then no one was talking about him after his first year at LSU, and then boom, flies up the draft boards, and it's one of the great stories in one season. But guys like an Andrew Luck, a Trevor Lawrence, that in college it's identified they're the guy. For Andrew, unfortunately, injuries derailed his career. But for a guy like Trevor Lawrence, do you think just being called that guy so early is what is going to end up doing him in the NFL?
No, I don't think so. I think that, you know, I thought the Doug Peterson offense would have been much more helpful, and I thought it was for a while. Listen, you know, they had that great run. They got to the playoffs, and they won the game and got to the division round and played the Chiefs really well at Arrowhead. And then, you know, frankly, Trevor got hurt, you know, and he tried to play through it. And then, of course, his rookie year, he gets stuck with Urban Meyer, which, you know, was just like you could just tear that rookie year up and say you're starting over again. So, you know, I think Liam Cohen does a really good job of scheming things and simplifying the offense. Where I think Trevor he has to get better at is at the line of scrimmage and identifying, you know, protections. I think that's the biggest one because I think he can go a long way of making things much easier for himself as if he protects himself with a slide or whatnot so he can have more time to throw the football.
If we were redoing the draft from last year, Ryan Leaf now, and we know what the order was. It was Caleb Williams ended up going 1. Then you saw Jaden Daniels go 2. And then 3 ended up being Drake May. If they could redraft those first 3 picks with the Bears, the Commanders, and the Patriots, how do you think those quarterbacks would end up going?
Well, I mean, I think you would probably have to say it has to be Jaden Daniels at 1 overall. And then I would argue Bo Nix, you know, maybe at 2. And then you'd probably say it's Michael Penix Jr. My guys.
So not Caleb or Drake?
Not in the top 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, not from what we saw. This was, I always have, this was May 21st, 2024. These were my quarterback rankings heading into, so this was before, or this was just after the draft. I still think, and you know, Daniels has proved me wrong in this just because I don't think you have any data from Penix. They played head-to-head, too. It was pretty good matchup. That's going to be a fun one in the NFC. I think those guys battling each other. But my number 1 guy was Penix. My number 2 guy was Daniels, Nix, Williams, McCarthy, and May. Those were the 6 guys in that order. And so it's kind of played out a little bit that way. Bo Nix was really special this year.
So top to bottom is my biggest takeaway here. Why were you so in love with Michael Penix? And then also, why were you so down on Drake May?
So Penix for me was a guy that didn't take sacks and was incredibly accurate down the football field. Those are just 2 things you can't, like, if you put that at the NFL level your rookie year where you are getting rid of the football immediately and not taking sacks and you are accurate down the field when you have an opportunity for deep passes, that makes you the perfect quarterback in this day and age of the NFL. And so May, on the other hand, for me was his youth, the fact that he was going to such a bad football team. I did not necessarily know if his skill set fit with what the NFL was going to ask you to do, especially in New England. And so I was definitely wrong with that. He took risks. He became the leader, and he became the defunct, franchise quarterback for the Patriots. So, like, if I was reworking this right now, I'd probably go, Daniels, Nix, Penix, May, Williams, McCarthy is the way I'd probably do the 6. And I'd place Williams behind May simply because he didn't learn this year. He just kept doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, trying to vacate the pocket out the backside and taking sack after sack after sack. And it was just – and he didn't take the risks. He just did not take risks. He didn't throw any interceptions, and that was a big reason, like in first halves of football games for the Bears, they looked like they didn't know what or how to play offensive football in those first halves. And then in the second halves, they had to come back from behind, and Caleb can run around and throw the ball around and make some plays. But that's not what's going to win you football games.
For this year, would you go Shedeur or would you go Cam? Or is there another guy?
I'm telling Riley Leonard for me is he is a special player, and I think he was really limited this year because of what Notre Dame did offensively. So much so that they had to run him as much as they did. But when they finally let him heave it there in the second half to come back in that football game, he was pretty special. And this last week in Mobile, he was in a pro-style offense, and he made every throw that was asked. And he is a leader, and people followed him. And so, I think, he's probably going to sit around a second or third day, probably a third day grade. And in any team that gets him in that spot, try to keep him off the field if you're an NFL team. If he doesn't go to a place that has an incumbent franchise quarterback, like a place where, he could be next in line, there's just nothing that's going to keep him off the football field.
Would you lean Shedeur or Cam, though?
Probably Shedeur, simply because just of everything that he has, the knowledge that he has. Fundamentally, he's incredible. Like, his arm angle and release is so impressive. He's got the tutelage of his father, who played in this league for years, is one of the greatest of all time. He's been coached by professionals his entire life. And Cam has kind of been a meteoric rise. Started in Incarnate Word, went to Washington State.
0-star.
It hasn't necessarily been able to win. I think that's one of the things for me is that, for all the hoopla and everything like that, he still wasn't able to win at Washington State. The guy that came in behind him, and John Mateer this year, almost gets him to the college football playoff. So that's one of the bigger things for me is he a winner? And so that for that reason, I'd put him in the second spot. Though, talking with Jason Taylor, which, anytime you talk to your coaches from the teams you're with, Jason Taylor, who's a Hall of Fame defensive end, flat out said he's a killer. And so when you hear that from somebody with that kind of,
they say, wait a second,
with those kind of credentials, that perks your ears up, definitely.
Tell everyone about the Last Mile.
Yeah, so the Last Mile foundation that was started about 15 years ago that started placing education in prisons, and not just any sort of educations programs, but coding, teaching inmates how to code, audio-visual production, two things that when you get out that are, actually things you can, like attributable skills to making a living. And that's what you want. 95% of the people incarcerated at this moment are going to get out. And do you want them to get out and, victimize the community again and go back? Or do you want them to be able to contribute and give back to the community and be a part of society and feel hope around that? And that's what the program does. And so they established the radio show about a year ago and have made me the host about 6 months ago. And I get to tell the stories of a lot of these individuals. And some of the other ones have just been incredible. We spent a full day in San Quentin prison about 2 weeks ago, talking to those men, and the hope that comes from knowing that when you get out, there's a chance. The recidivism rate in our country is just overwhelming. We are the highest populated prison population in the entire world, and that has to change. Over hundreds of years, it hasn't worked. We haven't, eliminated crime and everything by, locking them up more and more and more. There has to be programming. There has to be things that give them hope. You're not the worst thing that you've ever done, and stigma has to go with that. So that's what the Last Mile is. Incredibly, blessed and grateful for that responsibility. And some of the shows we've had of late. I had Larry Miller on just recently. He's the president and chair for the Jordan brand. 16 years old, growing up in Philly. He's in a gang. He shoots and kills somebody. Spends years in prison. Back before the internet, back before background checks or anything like that. He goes on to work for a corporation. All of a sudden is hired as the president for the Portland Trail Blazers. And with Paul Allen, who didn't go to owners' meetings, Larry would go and was the incumbent owner of the Portland Trail Blazers, goes on to work as the head of Jordan brand, and then years later he starts to hear that the story might come out, and his daughter said you have to go call Phil and Michael. And I asked the question, Phil and Michael who? He was like, Phil Knight and Michael Jordan. And he has to call them and tell them this story.
Wow.
And in doing so, they both said, we love you, man. We know who you are.
We're going to support you.
Do what your daughter says, write the book. And then he goes and writes the book. And he tells the story. And I think he did an incredible thing, because if he would have went to his grave, not had told that, there were men that looked just like him, a young black man out there that would have said, see, I can't be transparent. I can't tell anybody about these things, because he didn't, and that's how he got. But instead, he is able to. And people go, hey, he's the head of the highest, biggest, I think, probably sporting brand out there in Jordan Brand, and and has this story, and he's helping people, and I think it's amazing. And so, yeah, I got to interview him, and so it's a purposeful show that's much different than what I've done over the last 8 years when it's been really around sports broadcasting. Another one we had recently was the founder and COO of Death Row Records. He spent 34 years in prison. Donald Trump, before he left office the first time, commuted his sentence, and he's been out for 4 years. And the changes he's making around his community, and in a community that he victimized when he was running the streets back then. So it's incredibly powerful. It's an unbelievable program, and one that I'm really lucky to be a part of.
He's Ryan Leaf. Ryan, appreciate the time. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Zach. Good to see you.
There you go. Ryan Leaf with us. We'll take you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports next with some audio. We call that segment the News Brief. Update time first. Let's send it back to New York City. Here's the Act Man, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, Roger Goodell is meeting the media as Super Bowl week is underway. One of the biggest topics of discussion, the 18-game schedule, but Goodell said they haven't had any formal discussions with the NFLPA about it, and also said player concussions at an historically low level this year. There will be hundreds of storylines, though, this week. Among them, Chiefs bias, an idea the commissioner immediately shot down.
Half the group sees it one way and half the group sees it the other way, and they understand that coming into it. But I've never seen a more dedicated group of people than our NFL officials to getting it right, to doing the best job they possibly can, and I'm proud of the work they did.
And there's a big story developing away from New Orleans in Cleveland, where Myles Garrett has asked the Browns for a trade, but they have said previously they don't have any plans to accommodate that wish. Garrett's final 2 years of his contract do not have any guaranteed money. 76-year-old Leonard Hamilton will step down at the end of the season, his 23rd as the head coach at Florida State. The Spurs play their first game tonight since yesterday's blockbuster deal that brought De'Aaron Fox to San Antonio. They will face the Grizzlies tonight in Memphis, and the Thunder go for win number 39 against the Bucks at home. I'm Rich Ackerman.
Hey, like us on Facebook. Our handle is INF Sportsnet. That's INF Sportsnet for our Facebook page. This is the Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Alrighty, Zach Gelb here with you back inside Radio Row. Let's listen up to the Mavs general manager, Nico Harrison. I'm going to try to not yell and freak out in this segment, but I watched the 10 or 15 minutes of just jackassery yesterday from Nico Harrison, and my blood was boiling just listening to him just continue to have verbal diarrhea. But this is Nico Harrison. If they talk to other teams besides the Lakers before trading one of the top 3 or 5 players in the NBA in Luka Doncic.
No, and I'd like to give Rob Pelinka a lot of credit. You know, trades, you guys have been around here, trades don't happen at the smallest level without stuff getting out. And Rob and I were able to have, you know, really intense conversations over the course of, 3 or 4 weeks that started out as a coffee that, was more, hey, would you ever, I don't know, would I? Let me think of, and then it built upon that. And, we kept it between us. We had to keep it tight. J. Kidd didn't know about it. But J. Kidd and I are aligned, and we talk about archetypes, and we talk about the culture that we want to create. So I know the type of players that he likes without actually talking to him. Hey, would you like, so I know that. And J. Kidd coached them when they won a championship.
The biggest bull crap on that is J. Kidd and I, we're aligned. How are you know that you're aligned with your head coach if before trading your best player and the identity of your franchise, you don't even talk to him. So what, did Jason Kidd, he can't stand Luka Doncic? Because if that's the case, then Jason Kidd shouldn't be coaching the team, and Nico Harrison shouldn't be the general manager. Here is Nico Harrison. He says he made the call on this trade, and he's the one responsible for it.
Let's be clear. I'm the one making the decision, and Jay's supportive of it, so it's me. I don't do anything that's scary. I think everything that we do, we put a lot of work into it. We study it, and we restudy it, and we go back, and I understand the magnitude of it. So the easiest thing for me to do is do nothing, and everyone would praise me for doing nothing. But we really believe in it, and time will tell if I'm right.
I'll tell you right now, you're not going to be right. Yeah, you don't recover. You may be able to have a moment, but getting Anthony Davis, who's older, and only a first-round pick for Luka Doncic, when the reason why you didn't talk to other teams is because this would have got out, and then your fans would have revolted, and they would have prevented the trade. If you were talking around and this would have leaked, and then fans would have freaked out, and then you would have said, okay, now we can't because of what the reaction is after this is just talked about. It's one thing when you make the trade and then you have an overreaction to it after the fact, but there would have been days where this could have been prevented. But that's just, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable to trade him, and then it's really unacceptable to not talk to other teams to get the most back for him. Nico Harrison, did Luka Doncic just no longer fit the Mavs culture, whatever that is now?
No, listen, one thing about me, I'm not going to talk bad about any players. Like that's not going to do, us or me any good. I just say there's levels to it, and there's people that fit the culture, and there's people that come in and add to the culture, and those are two distinct things. And I believe the people that were coming in are adding to the culture.
So whatever culture Nico Harrison has built or has in Dallas, Luka Doncic just didn't meet it. And is that more of a Luka problem, or is that a Mavericks problem? Is that Luka, or is it the GM? Now, I'm not saying that Luka was in the best shape. I'm not saying that Luka couldn't be better. But if you're starting with Luka, and he's already a top 5 player in the league, and he just had the team in the NBA Finals, maybe you should have found a way to make that work. Now, just a thought. Here is Nico Harrison on when he first told Patrick Dumont, the new owner of the Dallas Mavericks, Mark Cuban only owns 27% of the team. Because if Mark Cuban was still the majority owner, I can guarantee you this would have never happened. Because Mark Cuban once said he would rather divorce his wife first than ever trading away Luka Doncic. So here is Nico Harrison on when he first told the new owner, or governor, whatever they call in the NBA these days, in Patrick Dumont of the Mavericks.
The first time he laughed at me. No, Patrick, he's the owner, obviously. He's the ultimate decision maker, but he entrusts in Jay Kidd and I to lead this team, and he's putting the trust into us. And then, obviously, you got to get judged on the performance that you've done as a leader. And at some point, if it doesn't work out, then I'll be judged for that.
Now, there's a lot of times where we go, we don't want a meddling owner. But I also want checks and balances. And if Nico Harrison is going to operate as a lone wolf here, and he's going to basically come up with trading Luka Doncic for pretty much only Anthony Davis and a first-round pick, that's the main part. That's the mashed potatoes and the gravy of the dish here. Someone in that organization says you can't do this. And if it means that you lose Nico Harrison as your general manager, so be it. Because I'd much rather have, hot take of the day, I would much rather have Luka Doncic as my star player than Nico Harrison as my general manager. And here is Nico Harrison, how he ended his press conference, making a joke about his future, because when everyone's annoyed, all we want is a crappy stand-up comedian, right?
Well, I think the long term is the time frame. I think he fits our time frame. If you pair him with Kyrie and the rest of the guys, he fits right along with our time frame to win now and win in the future. And the future to me is 3-4 years from now. The future 10 years from now, I don't know. I don't think they probably bury me and Jay by then. Or we bury ourselves.
Yes.
Smug, arrogant, and thinking you're the smartest guy in the room. That's the 3 ways I would describe Nico Harrison. Smug, arrogant, and thinking you're the smartest guy in the room. And what did that lead to? Led to him no longer having Luka Doncic. Ugh, man. That trade, I'm still stunned by it. It prevented me from a lot of sleep on Sunday. And I had to get up early and get to the airport to get her to New Orleans because I was just in shock. I let it process really all of Sunday. Still didn't believe it. And even today, yeah, sure, you had the Myles Garrett trade request, so that kind of takes some of the the thinking and the mind to other places. But still, I then try to go back to the Mavericks and this deal, and I go, Stu's team got Luka Doncic. I was happy for Stu. Happy, right, for the Lakers. But the Mavericks, you walked past the Dirk statue, it looked like a memorial, and Dirk had no part of this. They had, like, flowers. Oh, Luka will miss you. Fire Nico Harrison. It's the most shocking sports trade, my 30 years of living, that I could ever remember. All righty, we'll take a break. A Radio Row tradition. Solomon Wilcots will join us next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond. He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, back inside the New Orleans Convention Center. We're live, day number 1 on Radio Row, hour number 3 of our radio program. Zach Gelb here with you for another hour. 5 great shows for you this week, and I feel as if this is now a tradition, because it's definitely been happening the last 4 or 5 years. Each and every Monday to kick off Radio Row week, we do always chat it up with Solomon Wilcots, who is here today on behalf of Macy. For more information, visit www.macy.com. Solomon, how you been?
I've been great, man. It's always great to come here and spend time with you. And, you know, I followed your career all these years, this young guy who's always just been grinding and working. And, man, you deserve all the success you get because you've put in the work. You've done it the right way. And I couldn't be more proud of you, to be honest with you, and watching how you've grown over the years and look at where you are today, man. It's well-earned, well-deserved, and there's still higher to go.
Well, I appreciate that, and now I just hope I don't mess it up.
No, you won't.
Like,
You're
I'm like
good.
Joe Burrow.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I can't become the Cincinnati Bengals.
There's expectations. There's no doubt.
Well, how about the direction of the Bengals? Because, they were the team. The biggest fear for the Kansas City Chiefs were the Cincinnati Bengals. They beat them once. They didn't get their Super Bowl because they couldn't block Aaron Donald. Then the next year, back in the AFC Championship game, you just lose. And since then, injuries and just defense being a problem for this team.
You know, there was a stretch there between 2021 and 2022 where the Bengals had beaten the Chiefs 3 out of 4 times.
Yeah.
I mean, it was incredible, man. And but look, they still have some really key essential things there. They kind of remind me of the Eagles. I don't know that the roster is quite there yet, but the Eagles are one of those teams that just seem to always be there, always seem to hover. They kind of recede and rebuild. Now, they're a little more aggressive when it comes to going after those pieces, but they kind of just remind me of a team that's just going to be there. As long as they got number 9, they're going to be in the thick of it. Just think about it. They win their last 5 games. If they would have just won one more of those earlier games where they got off to that poor start, they would have been playing in the playoffs, and it would have been a scary proposition, right, to see Joe Burrow coming with Jamar Chase and Trey Hendrickson, the league's leading passer, leading receiver, and leading pass rusher. That's a scary thought.
It's crazy. I went viral. I think it was like week 14. I go, Joe Burrow stats are this. Jamar Chase stats are this.
Yes.
Trey Hendrickson stats are this.
Man.
And the Bengals are this.
That's right. There you go. There you go.
But for their future, there's always that perception, right, because of where the Bengals were.
Yeah.
And when Marvin Lewis, right when he got there were stories that the players didn't realize, you could actually take some Gatorade and some water because we're not going to charge you.
That's right.
When you give a jock strap in, you don't actually have to do that. You could you take one if you need one.
Yeah.
The Jamar Chase thing, I hate to say same old Bengals, but how they don't have a deal with him yet is concerning to me.
Zach, I think you're hitting one of the most fundamental missed points of conversation surrounding the organization. You know, people point to the bad starts and they try to act like it's a Zach Taylor thing. Each year, you know, whether it was Joe Burrow sick or Joe Burrow hurt or Joe Burrow not able to practice because he was coming off an injury, this year, if you just take a look at this year, think about any time in the military when the troops, in this case the players, before they go out to battle, what is the number one thing military people talk about? The morale of the troops. It's a thing.
Yeah.
And it's so very important. And never, ever, ever underestimate what that truly means to a football team or to any sports, our athletic team. Their morale, the ability to believe that we can do it and that we have all hands on deck. Everybody okay? That's really what morale is born of that, right? It's born out of the preparation. It's born that out of the leadership has given us everything that we need to be everything that we can be. And that expectation is set. But when you leave a player like T. Higgins hanging, forcing him into the franchise tag, when you tell Trey Hendrickson, nope, you signed a deal last year, we redid you last year, there's nothing more coming for you, play under, Mike Tomlin says he wants volunteers, not hostages. Cincinnati Bengals don't seem to care. Right? They take you how they can get you. They're going to hold you hostage, and that's what they did to T. Higgins. Trey Hendrickson, there was some element of that. Certainly with Jamar Chase, he was not happy coming into the season. It impacted even other players on the team because what would the standard in the ranks of the troops, what do they say? Well, if they'll do that to him, what does that mean for me?
You're your second string guy. You're not going to have a contract.
And then they saw what happened to Jesse Bates
just
a couple of years.
You know what? That doesn't get talked about enough.
Yeah, man.
Jesse Bates was criminally underrated nationally.
No doubt.
With the Cincinnati. He is phenomenal.
But they knew what he was. At least the fans knew what he was.
And their defense has never recovered.
Never recovered. So now Lou Anarumo gets fired. I am telling you,
Lou's a good coach.
There is a morale issue coming into this season. So you saw a team show up to open the season. That's supposed to be the most optimistic day of the entire year.
Can I make it a mission?
Go ahead.
I'm a Patriot fan. I'm in a survivor pool each and every year.
You
I picked the Bengals.
Of course.
So it's like, yeah, sure, my team wins, but then I lose my survivor pool, and I'd rather have my team win because it got me excited.
There you go.
I was naive. I thought the Gerard Mayo era was going to be good.
Yeah,
but
you were very naive.
I couldn't, even with the bank, my one friend said to me, goes, the Bengals never start off well. I go, yes. I don't care. And the Bengals made the Patriots look like they had a good offensive line that day.
They didn't show up.
They didn't care.
They didn't care. They didn't want to be there. I've never saw a team, opening day, at home, be like the energy wasn't there. It was almost like going to a funeral.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tell you right now, that starts at the top. The ownership, and I love this team. I'd still live there. They gotta know. They gotta care more. And they have to be able to have the finger on the pulse of their team to know why they struggle, to know that you played a role in that disappointing performance. And it can never, ever happen again. It took the fury of Joe Burrow to pull him out of it. I mean, he went through that locker room. He went to players. He went to coaches. This guy had to become somebody different. And he would rather not have to be that person in order to shake them out of that catatonic state because they were comatose. Trust me, he shook them out of that. That is a testament to his leadership, to how much he's care. But guess what? He can't be forced to do that every year.
It's not sustainable. Or else he'll eventually say, I want out.
Exactly. So don't put him in that position. You'll find him becoming a Myles Garrett.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you can't pay players enough to stay in a losing situation. I don't care how much money you throw at them. Losing hurts, especially in football. Losing hurts. It comes with a cost. You cannot ask great competitors now, and Joe Burrow is one of the great competitors in our game. You can't ask them to stay in a situation and keep losing and not go to the playoffs and think it's going to be okay.
And hey, I'm not saying that we're all normal. So Solomon Wilcots is here with us. There's we are a crazy society.
Yeah.
But when it comes to football players, if you do everything you can and then you request a trade, we are accepting if you feel as if the organization is screwing them over. For Myles Garrett today, I haven't really heard anyone seriously, unless if you're an annoyed Browns fan, which I get because you don't want to lose, and that goes, I can't see what this guy's doing.
Everyone
to
can
me,
see.
it makes 110% sense. That organization's a disaster. They can't get out of their own way. They made the big move for Deshaun Watson. It hasn't worked. This is a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the top 2 defensive
go.
players in the league. He should want to go somewhere
He's
where he
done
can legitimately
everything
win.
he can, and I think it's okay. Just like people in their everyday jobs, you go into work, you're doing everything you can to make it a great company, but the company can't get it right. They're misallocating funds, and so this department is stealing from another department. The stock's not moving in a way that you can. You see, you're selling a lot of product, and why isn't the stock moving?
Yeah.
How come if we're selling all this product, if we're doing all this good, then how come we're not getting better results in areas where you expect results? That means going to the playoffs. If I'm a Hall of Famer, I'm getting double-digit sack, 14 or more sacks every single year, and we can't win? Okay, then maybe the player isn't letting the team down. Maybe it's the team letting the player down.
So we were talking before you came on the air, Solomon Wilcots, and you go, if I was running the Browns, I understand right now why you say you're not going to trade him.
Yep.
Right? Those are part of the trade negotiations
Gotta
and
say
everything.
it. Gotta say it if
but
you're
you would
Andrew
eventually
Berry.
go to the player and say, give me 5 teams,
I would
right?
say, give me 5 teams where you want to go. Let's keep this on the hush, and let's see what we can do. And look, I would tell them it's got to be a win-win.
Yeah,
we
got to
be
get something.
It's got to be what Detroit did when they sent Matthew Stafford back.
Fair? You can't be the Dallas Mavericks and get rid of Luka Doncic if you don't get enough back.
No. It's the Cowboys who had Herschel Walker and said the Vikings, give me all you got. Give me all you got.
And then some.
And then some.
So
that's what to do.
So let's do this. Just give me a team. You give me a team, I'll give you a team. For Myles Garrett, we'll go through it till we hit 5 teams. Who would be the first team that you think of if you were Myles?
Oh, he's going to put Dallas Cowboys on there.
Really?
So he's a kid, boy. He's from the great state of Texas.
Yeah, but if you want to win a Super Bowl, they're nowhere
yeah, but
close.
they do have a quarterback.
And
Maybe he's the difference. And never underestimate a kid going back to play for your beloved hometown team that's got the gravitas. Of the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, so that's not an understatement.
So you gave me a surprising one, then I'll give you a surprising one. Team that's playing this Sunday in the Super Bowl, they know a thing or two about winning. They don't need him, but Magic Kansas City gets him?
First of all, you're not dealing him in the AFC. Now, he may say...
What happens if they say, well, I'll give you Karlaftis?
You're going to have to give up more than that.
Karlaftis and a first.
Yeah, you're going to have to give up Karlaftis. But see, a first from them...
It's like a second.
So they're going to be... I mean, you're going to give up 3 ones, Karlaftis, and maybe what?
You think it's going to be 3 ones for Myles Garrett?
Because they're low ones.
Okay. So you're saying if you're Kansas City.
You just said that they're like second-round picks, and they are.
Okay.
So, 3 ones from them because...
Yeah. The Chiefs would say no then.
They might say ones, but if they're smart, they'll say, for us, that's like a second-round pick.
Give them
up. I would give them up.
Yeah, give me one more team that you like for him.
I'm going to tell you, the Eagles.
Yeah.
The Eagles, because Howie is a guy that says, let's make a deal. Like Howie is a let's make a deal kind
and he
of
gets
guy.
the other team to make a deal that always goes in his favor. It's wild.
Well, if you're the Eagles and you have Jalen Carter and you have Myles Garrett.
Nolan Smith, too.
And Nolan Smith, yeah, but I'm just saying just those two, right?
Okay, yeah.
Like as a force. Dude.
If I'm an offensive line, I need $25 million a year.
NFC, everybody else playing for second.
Yeah.
And so that's, to me, you're going to a winning team. I don't think the Packers would give that up, but I think the Packers would be another team. And I don't know that would be one of the teams on his list, but you see what I'm saying?
And then the two other obvious, Bills and Lions.
There you go.
They're just there. Buffalo, Myles Garrett would be what they thought they were getting in Von Miller, and unfortunately Von just hasn't been able to stay healthy. And imagine with the Lions, you put Hutchinson and Garrett together.
Yeah. See, I think if I already have a young team, I would be inclined to do that.
Because it gets you over the top?
Yeah, I think because it gets
with a veteran presence.
And
too.
you already have working with players on a rookie deal. So you can
Commanders.
You can kind of do those things. Yeah, I think you have the rookie quarterback on his contract. You have some other players. See, I think the Commanders is another one of those teams. I think they would be
what a feel-good story, by the way.
Great destination for Myles Garrett.
And such a fun story this year, the Commanders.
Yeah, they were great, right? They were great. The quarterback, you have to like him. He's a competitor, and that dude has got ice water in his veins now. I mean, that dime he dropped on Monday night on the Cincinnati Bengals when they zero coverage and you blitzing, you hit him in the chops.
Yeah.
And he dropped
Back in
one
week 2 or
back
something?
of the end zone to Terry McLaurin.
Yeah.
That showed me something.
That was awesome.
That day I was like, oh, he's a dude.
And
He's a
also,
dude.
when you played, that was a fan base. That was a proud, awesome fan base.
no
And I
doubt.
went a game there.
Yeah, man.
I went to a game there 4 or 5 years ago. There was no fans of that team. It was apathy because of what Daniel Snyder did.
Yeah, he napalmed it, didn't he? I mean, that was one of the proud, great, marquee franchises of this league. It was and their fan base had a swath from literally there was parts of Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I remember going in there. We were in Latrobe. I was playing with the Steelers, and we would scrimmage them in Carlisle. They used to have their training camp across the border in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. So it's places like Pennsylvania, places like parts of Jersey, obviously D.C., Virginia, North Carolina. All of that was, quote, Redskin country, now Commanders country. All of that now gone.
Cowboys fans.
They don't even have the Carolinas anymore. They barely got Virginia, right? They lost a huge swath of geography in terms of geographical fan base, all gone.
We'll talk about Macy in just a second, but I want to throw a take out there to you and see how you would respond to it. So Myles Garrett requests a trade today.
Yeah.
If I'm TJ Watt, I know the Steelers are good, but they haven't won a playoff game since 2016.
Yeah.
I'm saying to the Rooney family, and I don't think he'd do this, but I would say it if I'm him, trade me to an actual Super Bowl contender.
I'm going to just tell you, there's a big difference. The Steelers
are good.
That's where you want to be. No, let's just throw win-loss record. The environment, you can be cultivated and grow and be the best that you could ever become in that organization. The ownership group, you can't play for a better owner. You can't play in a better environment. You can't play for a better fan base. And we can argue all these things, but they've got 6 Lombardi trophies to prove it, and nobody has more. I'm telling you. Every single player who's played for that organization, they come back, and they're invited back, and they're treated. They don't care if it was 1 year or 10 years, man. It is one of the best organizations. That family is so wonderful. The way they treat their players, nobody's begging to leave.
But they need a wake-up call. That team has not won a playoff game since 2016.
But
you know who they are?
They're getting there, man.
You know who they turned into?
Ooh.
Cincinnati Bengals under Marvin Lewis. Always there, but don't get the job done. What's the difference?
What the difference?
Outside of the organization, one's respected and one wasn't.
The difference for the Bengals, I think this is to the plus. Marvin Lewis inherited a team that was like the Titanic. It was at the bottom of the ocean.
Only place to go was up.
When he was done, they were selling the high seas, bro. And they went to 5 straight playoffs. They never got over the hump, but that was a fun period. That was a fun time. When you were used to just getting the brakes beat off you, and now you're going to the playoffs, and your players were wanting to come play there in free agency. They were signing players to come there. That's exactly how they got a Mike Hilton.
Yeah.
That's how they got a Trey Hendrickson. So, I'm just saying that. Now, the Steelers are a team that have been operating at the highest level and even won a championship under Mike Tomlin. And now they have descended to the depths of getting to the playoffs and can't win. I want out? Are you kidding me? Come on, Zach.
I want to win a Super Bowl.
I want out.
I love you guys. I'll come back to all those ceremonies. I want to go win a Super Bowl, though.
I understand Zach Gelb, but this is a guy that's trending towards a Hall of Fame career on a team that is a winner. They're not seen as a loser.
Sure.
They're a winner, right? And why it's not to your liking, it's to and there are some people who want more, but you cannot let perfection become the enemy of good. And I think that's what you're saying. So, Super Bowl or bust, get me out of here. Yeah. J.J. Watt, or T.J. Watt, excuse me. You're operating with good sense. Keep it up. Don't listen to the naysayers. Pittsburgh is a phenomenal organization.
It is.
I'm just flat telling you. If this was happening at another organization, I think there'd be, but when you start putting certain things on the scale, my work environment, the coach that I play for and his his enthusiasm. He makes coming to work fun. The organization makes it's a respected organization with great legacy. Okay, do I become part of the problem and say, I want out? And act selfish? Because I'm just tell you right now, it ain't going to play well among a blue-collar fan base. Ain't going to play well. I'm just going to tell you. And guess what? The Watt kids, they're blue-collar dudes.
Yeah, they are.
They're blue-collar dudes. I'm just telling you.
All right, tell me what you got cooking today with Macy.
We've talked about this before. Vericel has one of the best procedures, innovative treatments for repairing cartilage damage. It's called Macy Orthoscopic, Macy Arthro. And now it's performed orthoscopically, where you can go in and just minimally invasive, right? You go in and you can take a healthy piece of the cartilage, they grow it in a lab, and then they go back in using an orthoscopic procedure, and then they go back in and they put it back in. It adheres to the healthy tissue and as well as to the bone. And now you have that smooth cartilage that you need, where you don't get any sticking, no popping, no cracking. It prevents you from deteriorating to the point where you're going bone on bone. If you get to bone on bone, now you're going to need a knee replacement operation. So this Macy orthoscopic procedure has been phenomenal, right? It's been already approved by the FDA, and it is one of the best procedures you could ever have to help repair cartilage damage in the knee using your own cells. That's what's phenomenal about this technology. You can go to the website, macy.com, MACI.com, to find out more about the procedure and find a doctor in your area.
He's Solomon Wilcots. Solly, always great to see you. Thank you.
Always great talking with you, my friend.
We'll take a timeout. Zach Gelb here with you live on Radio Row. We'll do a little onside offside next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Zach's taking on the most polarizing issues in sports. Which side of the line of scrimmage will he end up on?
Offside. Defense number 69.
It's Onsides, Offsides with Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, time for a little onside offside. New Orleans edition live on Radio Row on this Monday. Stu, what do we got cooking today?
All right, Zach. Well, my Raiders, they made a offensive coordinator hire, luring Chip Kelly away from Ohio State, making him the highest paid assistant coach in the NFL.
You know, the Raiders should drop down. They should go pick up, Stu, the Pac-12 and go be the marquee team in the Pac-12. Look at this coaching staff.
Yeah, I know.
You got Chip Kelly, and then you also have Pete Carroll. That's vintage Pac-12 right there.
It's not bad. In his lone season in Columbus, Kelly led an offense that was 30th in the nation in yards and 14th in points, while of course winning the national title. Onsides, offsides, Chip Kelly will make the Raiders' offense significantly better.
So here's my biggest concern on Chip Kelly. It's really the NFL game. In college, right, even when he was at UCLA, they tried to get him fired every year, and his teams were always just solid. They were never great, but they were solid. We know, right, his best work in college was at Oregon. In the NFL, though, the players hated his guts in Philadelphia. We've had players come on this show and tell us those stories. Then he should have never taken the San Francisco 49ers job. He rushed way too quickly into that, and after 1 year, kicked to the curb, he was gone. So Chip Kelly, to me, not in a head coaching role now, but he's in an offensive coordinating position, but he doesn't have a quarterback. So I got to see who the quarterback is before I could say that Chip Kelly will make the Raiders' offense significantly better. Because, Stu, even though the culture is going to be better with the Raiders just bringing in Pete Carroll compared to the last two coaches, nothing against Antonio Pierce, but it was too loosey-goosey, and Josh McDaniels is way too uptight, and he was too much of a dictator. Chip Kelly is more like McDaniels than he is Antonio Pierce. And look how those players couldn't stand Josh McDaniels whatsoever. So obviously, Chip Kelly comes with more college pedigree, but in the NFL, he's basically done jack. So do I think he could lead a group that doesn't have a quarterback because he's that special of a personality? No, I do not. So until I know who their quarterback is, I can't say that Chip Kelly's going to make the Raiders offense significantly better. So I'm going offside.
Offside.
All right, well, the Commanders, they fell one game shy of the Super Bowl, and some were calling for the team to change their name back to their original name. However, today, owner Josh Harris announced that they will not change the name back and will remain the Commanders. So onside, offsides, it was the right decision to keep the name the Commanders.
I may want to start something today. I don't think we ever talk about the name again. You know, we know what happened when it was the Redskins, and then you go to the football team. I actually thought they should have just kept it the Washington football team. They go to the Commanders. You've rebranded. You took the old name out. You put a placeholder name in, and then you made a new name. I know that this ownership group didn't pick that, but just leave it. We do not need to change the name of this team. The Washington. Did anyone talk about the name of the team when they were on their way to an NFC championship game? Like, oh, I got to change the name of the team. Just stop. Who cares what the name is at this point? So it's the right decision to keep the name of the Commanders? Yes. And stop talking about it. So stop talking about it. Stop saying change the name. Stop entertaining the conversation. This is the name of the team, and that's it. And keep it moving. As long as Jaden Daniels continues to be a star, no one's going to give a rat's ass about the name of the team. So it was the right decision to keep the name of the Commanders. Yes, on sides.
Russell Wilson is about to be a free agent after just one season with the Steelers.
And to be clear, Stu, I'm not yelling at you for asking the question.
I understand.
I'm just so sick and tired of this pointless conversation that if we talk about it again, I'm just saying I don't got time for that. We're not doing it anymore.
So Russell Wilson about to be a free agent after one season with the Steelers. And some expect that he'll rejoin former Seahawks coach and Pete Carroll with the Raiders. Now, over the weekend, Russ spoke with the AP at the Pro Bowl games and wasn't ready to commit to Vegas, saying, quote, Pete's going to be a great coach, obviously, but I'm focused on the Steelers, end quote. So onsides, offsides, Russell Wilson will be the Steelers starting quarterback in 2025.
That is Russell Wilson saying he wants to be on the Steelers next year. That's him saying it. The question now is, do the Steelers want him back? And ultimately, since the Steelers, I love Solomon Wilcots, but how he talks about the Steelers, I get it. To me, that has been played out. That is old. The Steelers got to enter now the year of 2025 and go back to what their standard was. So I think the Steelers are fine just where they're at, where, hey, they make the postseason or they contend for the postseason. They show up, they go home, they never win a game. They haven't won a playoff game since the 2016 season. So I think they're comfortable with where they're at. I said this before, and I like Mike Tomlin, but if I was running the Pittsburgh Steelers, I would say either get me a franchise quarterback in the next 2 years or go get me a playoff victory or you're out. I just think that there's a lot of complacency in that organization. I think they're fine with where they're at, and they base what they've done off their reputation, and they don't get as slammed as other teams should be. And I don't think there's that many differences in terms of the way that the Bengals were under Marvin Lewis and then what the Steelers are now in the last 7 or 8 years under Mike Tomlin. Respectable team. They don't win enough games when it matters. They can't win a playoff game to save their life. So I think that they're just fine with that, and we're all kind of, most of us, like I'm in the minority when I say what I just said, but I think most of us are just content where the Steelers are. So I think the Steelers will be content with Russell Wilson being their starting quarterback in 2025. And it's going to take two to tango. Russ started dancing. The Steelers will dance back. He'll be their quarterback. So on sides.
All right, the trade that rocked the sports world over the weekend is still sending shockwaves around the NBA after Luka Doncic landed in LA to join his new Lakers team. Now, many were amazed that the Mavs even considered moving Luka, while others were more upset with the lack of return that the Mavs got in the deal. So onsides, offsides, you would be okay with the Mavs trading Luka if they got a better haul in return?
I would not prefer to trade Luka Doncic. I think that's pretty obvious if you listen to this show. But with that being said, if you got something back that was better than pretty much just Anthony Davis and a first-round pick and one first-round pick, I could at least listen to it, right? If there are thoughts of, okay, Luka's pushing 270, or he is 270, and he can't go eat a salad, and he can't go drink a protein smoothie and get on the elliptical for a little bit and lose some weight, and you think that, right, what you saw in the NBA Finals with the defense, they got him there, but the defense ended up costing him and some of the laziness, okay, I could at least listen to it. I personally, I would make it work with a top 5 player in the league and a generational talent, but you had to get something more back. But even with that being said, I don't know if there's a deal out there that would really make me say, okay, I'm going to get something back of equal value or better than Luka Doncic, even with all the assets that you could have potentially got for him if you were to shop him. So I would still lean on the side of I keep the talented player, a talented player that's young, that you could get a player to take his body more seriously and take his health more seriously rather than getting rid of him and just giving up and not even getting anywhere close to what you should get back for that player. So you'd be okay with them trading Luka if they got a better haul in return. They needed to get a better haul in return. I still don't know if that better haul in return would make me say, okay, trade the player. So I'm going to go offside on that one.
Offside.
How about this story, Stu, real quickly?
Sure.
Adam Schefter, with the Super Bowl on Sunday and free agency looming next month, Eagles defensive end Josh Sweat, who, by the way, Stu, if you had to take a guess, there's signs here at Radio Row. For the Chiefs, who do you think the two players are that they put on the signs?
I would say it would be Mahomes and Kelsey.
That would be correct. Who do you think the two players are that they put on the signs here for the Philadelphia Eagles?
I mean, I would say Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, but I'm guessing it is not those two.
You're right on Jalen Hurts, and I would have thought it would have been Saquon Barkley. Who do you think is the player next to Jalen Hurts?
A.J. Brown?
Nope. Defensive player.
Zach Bond?
Nope.
Okay. It's not Brandon Graham?
Nope. And it's not Jalen Carter.
I mean, that's a great.
It's Josh Sweat.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Samter, did you notice that? Look at to the left. That's Jalen Hurts, and it's Josh Sweat. Nothing against Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat's a phenomenal player, but with all the names that the Eagles have to market here and the NFL has to market, how is Saquon Barkley not on this sign to the left of me? You have Jalen Hurts and you got Josh Sweat. I know if Josh Sweat was walking down the street, would most people even know who he was? No. He could be in your backyard and you'd have no clue who he is, and he's a really damn good player. So Josh Sweat has changed his agent today and hired Drew Rosenhaus and Ryan Matha. He's clearly one of the very top free agents. Rosenhaus said Sweat led the Eagles this season with 8 sacks. So we know he's a phenomenal player. But from a marketing standpoint, if you give an average football fan, who are the two players that the Chiefs are marketing? Yeah, it's Mahomes. Yeah, it's Kelsey. We love Taylor Swift, too. The Eagles have Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts. Saquon Barkley and A.J. Brown. And if you told me defensive players, too, you got Zach Bond and you got Jalen Carter. Yeah, both guesses I would have had, or Brandon Graham, before I got to Josh Sweat, even though he's an incredible football player. So onside, offside, Stu, do you have a problem with the player before the biggest game of his life changing his agent? Any problem with that?
I don't know if it's a problem. It's just weird timing. I can't wait a week. I can't wait, 8 days. I don't know. That's a little weird for me.
Really weird story. All right, final question here. Take us home.
All right. So while all the eyes were on the Mavs and Lakers trade over the weekend, the Spurs made a big moves for themselves, adding De'Aaron Fox from the Kings to pair with Wemby. Fox made the All-Star team last year and has averaged nearly 25 points per game over the last 6 seasons. So onsides, offsides, the Spurs can win a title around a duo of Wemby and Fox.
See, it just shows you, and I know this is the NBA formula, but it's so garbage. We really don't talk about the regular season all that much on a national radio show when it comes to the NBA, but the trade deadline is effing awesome. I hated the Luka Doncic deal, but it's been a fun reaction. Then you get this De'Aaron Fox trade, and now you get De'Aaron Fox and Wemby. That's awesome. I see rumors today, Stu, a lot of rumors on Kevin Durant today. It seems as if today, with the trade deadline looming on February 6th, this has been the day where Kevin Durant's name has just been floated out there. I guess, all right, Durant to me is not crazy if he ends up getting traded. But, man, once Luka ended up getting traded, and that was the surprising one, now Pandora's box is really open still.
Yeah, I mean, we thought that Jimmy Butler was going to be the biggest name to be moved, and it might be the 4th biggest name when all is said and done here.
Yeah, he may not get moved.
And he might not, yeah.
Because I think this is telling the rest of the league doesn't think as highly of Jimmy Butler as Jimmy Butler thinks of himself. And I think they look at Miami, they go, okay, Pat, we kind of understood why you didn't want to give him that contract. So we're not inclined to go give Jimmy Butler a big deal since he's not even a superstar. He's top 15, top 20 player in the league. In that range, 15 to 20. Now, when you go to the finals, people say that you're a top 10 player, but he's not consistently believed as being a top 10 player in this league. And if you have to pay him and he's going to be a malcontent, I would say thanks, but no thanks. You made your bed, now go lie in it. That's what I would say if I'm some of these other teams in the league. But the Spurs can win a title around the duo of Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox. I think De'Aaron Fox is a phenomenal player. And we saw what he did with the Kings a few years ago. He was awesome. And that organization is just terrible. Let's be real. And Wembanyama is a star and someone, to me, who's untradeable. So can the Spurs win a title around a duo of Wemby and Fox? Yes. And it's not going to happen this year. But then also, I got to see who's coaching that team. You know, I know the health of Greg Popovich is always has been a storyline too, and you know we wish him the best. But you know, you got to start thinking about life without Greg Popovich as your coach. But yeah, when you have Wemby and De'Aaron Fox, that's a heck of a 1-2 punch. So I think one day you build the right team around them, they could win a title. I'll go on sides there. Alrighty, one more segment today on this Monday from Radio Row. We will take a timeout. Zach Gelb here with you on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's go around the room here. MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL. Off of the crazy, stunning trade that happened in the wee hours Saturday going into Sunday morning, we will get into untradeable players right now in the NFL. Who's one player in the MLB you can't trade? NFL you can't trade. NBA you can't trade. And NHL you can't trade as well. Update time first. Here's the Ackman, Rich Ackerman.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Super Bowl 59 is the 10th Super Bowl rematch, with the Eagles looking for revenge on the Chiefs following a 3-point loss 2 years ago, and Devontae Smith grateful for another opportunity.
Day in, day out, the work that I put in, just thinking about all the times that, things were really rough and just fighting through it, getting through the adversity that I've encountered, and, just being here, it's a blessing.
The Browns are at the other end of the spectrum, and they hold the second pick in the draft, but Myles Garrett wants no part of the rebuild, saying he has asked the team for a trade, which they have said they would not grant at this time. He does have 2 years left on his current deal, but none of those are guaranteed money years for the Defensive Player of the Year. Florida State head coach Leonard Hamilton is stepping down after the season. The 76-year-old is in his 23rd year at Florida State. Auburn remains number one in the AP Top 25, followed by Duke. There was a wild weekend in the NBA with two stunning blockbuster trades. The Lakers remain off after acquiring Luka Doncic. The Spurs take the floor tonight in Memphis after acquiring De'Aaron Fox from the Kings. San Antonio begins the day 2 games out of a spot in the play-in tournament. I'm Rich Ackerman.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
And it's time to answer Ask the Pros question of the day. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. And you have Ethan in Cleveland who says, Zach, who's one team that you want to see Myles Garrett get traded to? You can submit a question by tweeting at INF Sportsnet or at Zach Gelb using the hashtag AskThePros. Think O'Reilly Auto Parts for all your car care needs. Get guaranteed low prices and excellent customer service from the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts. O'Reilly Auto Parts. So let's go around the room on this one, and then we'll do also around the room for the entirety of the whole trade conversation of untradeable players. But when it comes to Myles Garrett, the first team I want to see him get traded to are the Buffalo Bills. They have been so close with the Chiefs, but yet so far. They tried for Von Miller a few years ago to be that missing piece and that missing link, and unfortunately he just was never able to fully stay healthy, and he doesn't have the same explosiveness that Von Miller once had. So I would like to see the Buffalo Bills. Stu, who's the first team if the Bills are off the board?
I will say the Commanders. I think they're very, very close to being a team that can win a Super Bowl or get to a Super Bowl. They showed that this year. So I think if they added him, they would be in a really good spot. And I think they have the means and the cap room to do it.
Could you imagine last year if I told you a year from now at Radio Row, we'd be talking about the Commanders, the freaking Commanders being a destination? That shows you get the quarterback. It changes life instantly. And you also get that pig of an owner in Daniel Snyder out of the organization. Samter, so Commanders off the board, Bills off the board. I think the next one's obvious, but who do you got?
I mean, it's got to be my Chiefs, right? I mean,
this is like the lamest shtick you do.
Let's go for a four-peat. Let's make this happen.
You got to win the third one first.
It's in the bag. It's in the bag. Okay. Let's go for the four-peat. Let's add Myles Garrett. Not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not 6, 7. Let's go. In all reality, I think to your point earlier, the Lions.
Yeah.
All right. Aiden Hutchinson's coming back, but we don't know how long it's going to take him to get to full speed again.
Yeah.
You put him with Myles Garrett. That defense, with or without Aaron Glenn calling the defense, they are going to be unstoppable.
So the Lions are what the Browns thought they were going to be when they made that move to get Watson and the core that they had. Now the Lions are there in terms of they're right on the cusp of winning a championship. And I think this ended up being a reset year, even though they had a really great regular season, the number 1 overall seed. But what happened in the playoffs makes you kind of reset and re-humble and gives you that desire, okay, we have a really damn good gift. Now let's put a bow on top of that gift, and that bow would obviously be Myles Garrett. Alrighty, so off the Luka Doncic bullcrap. That's the best way to say it. Stu, you got to feel like $1 million. I was
going to say, amazing trade is how I would describe it.
Yeah. You feel as, you know what this is? This is like Halloween when you were a kid. And you wanted someone's Reese's peanut butter cup because, Margie, the mom that was handing out the peanut butter cups, ran out of peanut butter cups, and all she had for you was some crappy candy because someone took all of the peanut butter cups. And you walk in and you say to your friend, I want your peanut butter cup, and I'll give you some crappy candy. I'll give you like candy corn or something like that. And you never think they say yes, but then they say yes. That's what you are. You got the Reese's peanut butter cups. Because this trade, it is criminal what the Dallas Mavericks did. Criminal to trade him, and then criminal to get basically nothing back for him, for long-term success. It's wild to me, Stu.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. And it's always the Lakers that seem to luck into these kind of trades, too, throughout history of the league, at least.
League's rigged. Bring back, let's get David Stern back from the dead.
He would have vetoed it.
Oh, he would have vetoed this thing in a second. All righty. Players who are untradeable in the sports world. Let's start Major League Baseball. I'm going Shohei Ohtani. Stu?
I'll go Aaron Judge.
Okay. Samter?
I'm going to have to go with your boy with his 15-year, $765 million deal, Soto.
Yeah.
Not just because he's untouchable, but because no one wants that contract.
And why would no one want that contract?
No one, outside of the Dodgers, who else can take on that 15
The Yankees. They should have.
The Yankees have been a lot more frugal with the new ownership. And
the Red Sox should have been cheap. They should have got Juan Soto.
Yeah, there's only one other team that could probably afford that salary, and it's the Dodgers. And as of right now, I don't think that they're going to have two $700 million players.
These Major League Baseball owners crying poverty, enough of it. All right, NFL, this is easy. Mahomes. Samter?
I'm going to go with the guy that we were just talking about, Jaden Daniels.
Untradeable after 1 year?
Yeah, I'm going to say he's untradeable because he's one of those guys, if he can continue on this trajectory, then that's a team that, I was going to go Joe Burrow also, but he's been hurt so much I can see maybe potentially.
Josh Allen?
Yeah. Well, I'll leave some more. But I think Jaden Daniels, if he continues on this trajectory, the Commanders have been starving for a quarterback for 3 decades. They're not getting rid of him.
Stu?
Yeah, minus Josh Allen. It was quite a negotiation with Samter to be able to take Josh Allen. But
you guys fought about this behind the scenes?
We had a few overlapping ones, I would say.
So now Samter has a grudge because I went to him first. And he was like, oh, now I got to take the guy that I didn't want to take because Stu had the guy. So now there's a grudge. No, I've had a grudge against Stu for years. This is just adding to it. You have a grudge with a lot of people.
Yeah, man. This is especially my airline from yesterday.
Yeah. We'll get to that at one point. We'll maybe wait a few weeks on that. NBA-wise, Sam, I'll let you go first.
This one is simple for me. It's got to be Jokic.
Yeah.
Jokic is probably the best player in the league right now.
He's unstoppable. He's a cheat code.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Stu?
I'll go Jason Tatum. I think he's in that realm of the Celtics probably wouldn't trade him at this point.
And there's never anything to worry about with Jason Tatum. Phenomenal player. Outside of him having Deuce Tatum as a kid, I feel like we know nothing about Jason Tatum.
Top of your head, how old is Jason Tatum?
25, 26.
He's 26?
Yeah.
Doesn't it feel like he's been in the league for 20 years?
Yeah, because he dunked in LeBron's face in that Eastern Conference final. It was awesome.
It's unbelievable.
Even though they lost the game in that Game 7. NBA, mine is Wemby. You have an alien. I'll be fine having an alien on my team. Alrighty, this is the toughest one. NHL, for me, it's easy. It's Connor McDavid. Untradeable, except I look forward to when the Rangers trade for him when he's about 37 years old and way past his prime. What do you got, Stu?
Yeah, this was a negotiation I lost with Samter, but I'll go with Jack Hughes. I think he's a very good player. I'm not sure if untradeable. It's tough to find one other than your guy.
Gretzky loves him. Gretzky loves him. Loves Jack Hughes. Goes out of his way to praise him all the time. So you won one negotiation with Samter and you lost one negotiation with Samter is what you're telling me.
Pretty much.
Okay. And Mr. Samter, bring us home.
Oh, you got the wrong Connor. It's got to be Connor Bedard. Because, when I'm watching hockey... and
Samter's who's that?
and I'm watching these guys skate across the ice. This guy, Connor Bedard. Unstoppable.
Samter can't tell you one thing about Connor Bedard.
Blackhawks, right? Yeah. All right, I got one thing on Connor Bedard.
Can I get a second? I got to phone a friend.
His last name rhymes with hard.
What?
Bedard Hard. I don't know. That's it. That's all I got for you.
That will do it. We'll be back tomorrow for the New Orleans Convention Center. Big thanks to Gerald, McCoy, Thomas Dimitroff.